Welcome, everyone, to Virtual Camp Fasola. So we're really excited to be doing this. Of course, it's totally new. I have not ever taught rudiments on the interwebs, so I hope this makes some sense. I'm sad that we can't sing together, but I'm very happy that we can be together, be it virtually or otherwise. We're also really excited, of course, for all the other classes that are coming up. I see ID over here. We've got various good things planned for the week. And then we've also been working, mostly Jonathan. Everyone give Jonathan a muted round of applause because he's been editing like a madman these videos. So that'll be another, I'm sorry, I'm really trying to figure out if I can make this noise stop because it keeps going ding, 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 which is amazing because there's like a million people coming in, but maybe I'll just learn to, if I've learned to tune out 2 kids, I can probably learn to tune that out, right?
It should be a setting, Lauren, but it's probably not that easy to do while you're teaching.
I know, I should have thought of it beforehand. I didn't know how many people would come. This is amazing. What are we up to now? 78. That's awesome. So yeah, we're really excited to be doing this. I thought of it as like, you know, the YouTube videos are going to help us kind of reminisce about camps past. And then we get to enjoy each other's presence here in the Zoom room. And then we can also, you know, sort of bask in the collective hope of seeing each other again at singings, including camp, sometime hopefully in the not too distant future. So I kind of want to I'm trying to think now that there's this many people, I'm trying to think of the best way to like ask a question. Let me put this back on gallery view and see how many of you I can see at once. There's 4 pages. I mean, I know a lot of you, but I wanted to get a sense, is there anyone who is totally new to this? Anyone who's never been to a real life singing? Anyone who's never been to a singing school? Or are you all mostly singers? I mean, I know that most of you are singers because I know you because I've seen you at singings.
There's a hand raise function if people want to hit a hand raise function.
Yes,
on
thank you. Thank you for that reminder. Jillian told me about that before, and that's a good idea. Reactions. If you see your little reactions button on the bottom, kind of towards the right, then you can raise your hand and I will call on you and you can unmute yourself and say something out loud, but it will be a little more organized that way. So yeah, if anyone is new and wants to admit it, and wants to raise their hand.
RPG is saying that that person is totally new. And Sarah Nig says it's the first time at camp and she's giving us a smile.
Cool. All right, well, let me get back to my other screen. Well, for any of you who don't know me, or this can be a reminder, my name is Lauren. I have been singing for about 17 years, and I've been lucky enough to be teaching singing at camp and some other places, states, countries, for about 10 years. And I think watching these videos that we've been working with made me realize how much I miss teaching. In addition to, obviously I miss singing. I won't tell you all to press raise hand if you miss singing, because then it'll just go ding, 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 ding. But it's really an honor and a privilege to be teaching about Sacred Harp again. It's one of my loves and I have missed it very, very much. So I'm excited to be here. So we're going to be doing Rudiments, and that is, as most of you will know, but maybe some of you won't, this is our book that we sing from, the Sacred Harp. So it's the name of the book, and it's also the name of the singing that we do. And the Rudiments is a section. Oh, I got a trick book. It's upside down. So the Rudiments are in the back of this book, but for the most part, they would be in the front of your book. Kind of a rundown of how you do it, a little bit of the history stuff, kind of a how-to guide. And I was thinking about how most music is talked about and organized with certain languages, notations having to do with pitch. So that's how high or low, or frequency, if you want to get scientific. Rhythm or time, how the music moves through time. I've heard it called that music is sound organized in time, which I think is really cool. And then volume, amplitude, how loud you are, soft or loud. So all music is in one way or another organized in that way and often talked about in that way. And so that's true of ours too. And I have discovered that our rudiments through the past 100 plus years, through different editions of the book, have had these departments of music: melodics, rhythmics, dynamics. Also, sometimes I've heard this called tune, time, accent. So we'll get into that. And that's how we're going to organize today, because that's sort of a Sacred Harp thing, is to kind of keep it in those. It's kind of cool way to look at it. So we'll try and kind of stick to those, and it'll help keep me on track. So in that way, Sacred Harp is like other music, other sung music, other, written music. But there are a bunch of ways that Sacred Harp is not like other music. And I thought I would take this opportunity to let some of you volunteer some thoughts on that. How is Sacred Harp different? What have you noticed in however much time you've been enjoying singing? What's different? And this will be a good raise your hand moment if you can find the reaction button. Would they come up? Would they pop up? Where do I see it, Jillian? You have to help me.
You have to open your participants list.
I'm looking at the participants list. Oh, I see a hand.
There it is. There's one.
Yes. So yes, Terry, unmute yourself and tell us a thing.
Well, it doesn't follow the rules of harmony that traditional European music had. We have things like open fifths with no third. We don't put accidentals in to make the chords sound better. Right?
Yep. Okay. Really, so the sound is different because of the rules being a little different, harmonies. Okay, I like that. Anyone else? Give me more. Give me more. Who's got something? You can also I think you could just unmute yourself at this point. I don't need to filter, unless you're all gonna do it at once. Or no one's gonna do it. I can tell you what I came up with, but that's more boring.
This is Val, and I'll say it's experiential.
Okay, I love that. Good, experiential, as opposed to.
I mean, I would say that it's not primarily really about how we sound. It's primarily about what we're doing with each other.
Nice. Yeah, so it's about how it feels. It's participatory rather than performance oriented. I think that's really key to understanding what Sacred Harp is before we even get into the melodics and the rhythmics and everything. I just kind of want to give an overview. Dan, do you want to? Oh, wait, you got to unmute yourself. I can't unmute you, sorry.
Okay, the comment's been made so far, and I have to say yes. It really boils down to me, the part of the tradition. We have so many traditions mixed up with what we do here that if we took that away, it just wouldn't be the same.
That's very true. So many traditions. Dinner on the Grounds is one I am remembering fondly. Kate, what would you like to add?
That instead of following that incomprehensible key signature for the pitch, which means nothing to many of us, somebody pitches the song where most of us can probably sing our part okay. And that's very different.
Yeah. Bill?
It's a lot like language that is fluid. You have different dialects, different regional dialects. It's also tied up a lot with identity. People identify with the groups they learn to sing with.
Wow. Awesome. Okay, well, those were much more interesting answers than I was expecting or that I came up with. I mean, that's really true. Saying that it's like language, it's so cultural. We have our little pockets, we have our friends, we have mixing and matching, and there's the whole, you know, of course, what do we keep from the past? What do we bring into the future? Those are all really interesting questions. I guess as sort of just a general overview, I'll put the chat on, see if anyone's saying anything. Oh, everyone's saying everything in the chat. Okay, well, Jonathan, tell me if there's anything important in there, okay? I had, you know, participatory, no audience. I still, you know, have you ever had the experience that you've been explaining Sacred Harp singing to someone for a good half an hour, and then they say, when's your next concert? And you're just like, come on, you know? So that's really hard for people to wrap their minds around, but it's such an integral part of what we do that it is for enjoyment, for community, for worship, for the cathartic shouting of it all, and not for anyone else's, you know, enjoyment. It's not for an audience. Of course, we have our 4-part harmony.
Lauren, this is Gail.
Oh, yes.
In that way, it reminds me a lot of the small jams that largely instrumental people do, old time and bluegrass and things like that. They know the same songs.
When I get the glazed over look, sometimes I say it's kind of like a bluegrass jam crossed with a chorus, crossed with a church choir, crossed with a...
But they are playing,
gotta be in it to believe it.
Internally for themselves. They really are. There may be people standing around listening, but that's not the purpose of their playing.
Yeah, totally. So I just have a picture of a square here. So especially for our newcomers, I just wanted to show you kind of how it looks when we sing, so that you can have a vision. And maybe all of you who are very familiar with this look, maybe this will bring you some joy just to look at it. And the leader, as we call the person who's in the middle of the square, whose turn it is to sing whatever song they've picked out of our book. The leader in this picture is our dear friend Rebecca Over, who just passed away a week ago, recently. So it was nice to find. I was looking for a good picture where you could kind of see the different voice parts, and I saw this one and I thought, that's the one. So I want you to notice, you know, again, this is gonna be obvious for a lot of you, but for those of you who are looking at this kind of thing for the first time, we've got 4 different sections sitting all facing each other. The empty space is called the hollow square. I could teach an hour just on that phrase, but I won't. I shan't. The section whose backs we are looking at, that's called the tenor section. That's usually the biggest section, and that's kind of the main melody of our music. Although, here's another way that our music is different from other musics, is that every one of these 4 parts has a nice melody to sing. You can't say that about my college chorus that I quit as soon as I found out about Sacred Harp singing and never looked back. So that's the tenor part, the big one, where we can see their backs. And then this one over on the left side is the bass. And that's primarily male identified people, not always, but you know, traditionally it's mostly dudes, as you can see. Lower voice. Then over on your right side, there's treble, which is split into 2 parts, as is the tenor part, 2 octaves for low range and high range. So it really is kind of more like 6-part harmony, which is interesting. And then in the back there, the ones whose smiling faces we can see, those are the altos, and that's a lower part as well. So the 4 or kind of 6 parts all come together, and you can see they're here. We're probably talking or laughing, although I have laughed during singings. They're often very fun and entertaining. But you can see everyone singing kind of into where Rebecca is standing. And if you haven't ever been inside the Hollow Square, it's the place to be. It sounds really good. It feels really good. It's nice to see everybody when you look around and just feel like you're totally surrounded, because you are. And then in the corner on that table, I thought that was a nice little image to get to, that's the arranging committee. So, you know, sometimes at a smaller singing in like a what we might call practice singing or an evening singing, when it's just a couple hours, we might just go around the square. But in a longer singing, we have a committee of people picking an order of leaders, people who have signed up to lead. Again, that's a whole nother story, but just so you know kind of how it works. So then I wanted to just show you, and you can look, if you have a book, you can look in a book. I just wanted to show how that relates to what we're looking at on the page, mainly just in terms of those 4 parts. So that low bass part, that's this bottom line. Can you see, can everyone see this? I got 1 thumbs up, that's good. You know, someone can yell out at me if something is not making sense, or if I'm talking about something and you're like, where is it? What's going on? Please hit your space bar and tell me that it's not working. So yeah, can you see my arrow at all? I want to like point to it with my finger, but you can't see my finger. This bottom line of music, you can see there's 4 and there's 4. So the bottom one in each brace, that's the bass part. The next one up is the tenor, the big section where the main melody tends to live, even though they're all melodic. The next one up is the alto, and then the top one is the treble. So that's a way that it's different. You know, some people keep wanting to call it the soprano, but it's called treble in our music. And also you'll notice that if you've sung other choral music, a lot of times it can be on 2 braces, but in this music, we each have our own, 2 staves. In this music, we each have our own staff because we have melodies that cross each other. And so we need to just have that room for everyone to have their own music. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing this because it was just a little intro into what the page looks like and how that relates to what the square looks like.
One quick thing, Lauren, that a few people mentioned in the chat was that we don't usually wear matching shirts when we go to a singing. I mean, I do. I don't know about the rest of you, but.
That's a really good point. Because if that had been a picture just of like a regular singing, then people would have been wearing all sorts of cool different outfits. But yes, at camp, we wear matching shirts just to look extra goofy and be in that kind of fashion communion with each other. So let me actually pull that up one more time. One more thing that I just want you to notice is that these notes have different shapes. So that's a big thing that's different. And that's a lot of what we're gonna talk about in Rudiments, because the reason that they're different shapes, and I'm talking about the note heads, whereas in other music, they would all be round. We've got triangles, we've got squares / rectangles, diamonds, and the traditional circle that you will have seen. And each of these notes has their shape, and then each of those shapes has a name. And that is something that is part of the pedagogical system that we use. And we're gonna go over how it forms into a scale, which is basically just a pattern of notes that always has the same intervallic relationship with each other. You know, the space, the pitch space between these is gonna stay the same, even though this thing itself can kind of move around, and I'll try and explain what that means. But that's really the key to singing our music, is to first memorize those different shapes. And once you've kind of committed that to memory and you can start singing them along with what you're hearing in a singing, then it sort of unlocks this amazing system where the shape that you see will tell you exactly where you want to be singing. So it helps read music with an extra clue in addition to the height on the scale. So it still looks like other music where the height on the scale does determine the pitch, but you just get this extra hint. So we're gonna do something kind of goofy because, you know, if you've ever been in a real Rudiments class with me, or if you've ever, not that this isn't real, an in-person Rudiments class, or if you've seen me do Rudiments with the kids, I jump around a lot. I make them jump around a lot. So I'm trying to do a little bit of that, as much as makes sense. So we have 4 shapes. in that system that I was talking about. There's a triangle, which is called fa. You'll see that it appears multiple times, although you could argue this top one and the bottom one are the same. If that makes no sense to you, don't worry about it. Then there's this one, you'll see it multiple times, but it's always fa. It's always called fa. Also, if it looks like this, it's still called fa. Oh, you can't see that. Oh, let me move this over. No. All right, now you can see the whole thing, right? Yes? Oh yeah, I can move my computer. Okay, so this is a fa. It's always a fa. This is a fa. Fa. Oh yes, and a good way to remember that, and it's more so, hold on, let me get a fa that looks more like a flag for you. Let's say you had this kind of fa, and we'll go over this later, why they look different sometimes. This one looks kind of like a flag. So if you're looking for a way to remember that fa is a triangle, just think that it looks kind of like a flag when it's got that stem on it. Okay, next shape. This is a sol. And sol means sun. Sol, S. Also, when you say sol, your mouth is round. All sol. So that's the way to remember that one. Make sure I'm putting these in the right place. Next one we have, I gotta find a la because this is my game cards. I have to shuffle through. There's one. La. Here's a la. I made it kind of more rectangular than it usually is, but square rectangle. If you take two L's and put them together like this, you get a la. So, la. And last one, we only have 4 that you have to memorize. Last one is me. I've heard if you make like an M shape like that, that it kind of, the diamond shape kind of can fit in the top of an M so you can remember. And there's the ever famous diamonds are for me. Oh, I'm actually wearing my engagement ring. I put it on for our 10th anniversary, but I'm gonna take it off soon because it scratches everything, including my baby's face. So they're not for me, but maybe they're for you. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. This is so funny knowing that you all know the shapes already, but I'm still gonna make you do it. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna hold this up and you're not gonna sing because we're not up to singing yet. You're just gonna shout out what shape note you see. And this is based on like a silly kind of exercise that I do with the kids in Rudiments class at camp, where 4 kids will get up and kind of flip the shapes. If you watch the Rudiments reel after this, then you'll see it. It's very cute. So this is sort of what I came up with as an alternative. So I'm going to, I guess I can just throw them away. How do they do that so fast on those videos? Ready, set, go. You got to say the shape. Just say it to yourself. No one's going to hear you. I'm not going to say it, so it's going to be weird. Okay, ready?
La.
Are you getting them right?
La. So.
Someone's getting them right. Oh, threw a weird one in.
So.
Okay, good job. So that's sort of just so you get the littlest bit of practice. David has David Ivy, who's in here somewhere, has his really nice big scale board that he brings to camp, but the shapes have the words written on them, and I always think that's sort of cheating. Vote in the chat. No. I like doing it this way once I've tried to make people memorize it, just so they get that step further in trying to look at this and look at it and say the actual shape as soon as you can. And if you get it wrong sometimes, that's fine. No worries about that. Let me make sure I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. All right, so now that we know what the shapes are called, we're going to get into this melodic section. So this is how we organize our music according to how high or low everyone is singing, individually and as a class, on any given song. So here we have Can you see this okay? The major scale. Let me make sure it's in the right order because Lucy was playing with it before. Okay, that looks good. So a scale is really just a collection of notes. It's a pattern. It's kind of like its own little song, really. I mean, you can memorize it as a song, but instead of jumping around when you're singing the scale, you're kind of just going up in what they call stepwise motion, every progressive note. You already know what this sounds like, even if you haven't sung Sacred Harp. It's the same sound as lots and lots of rock music, folk music, pop music, classical music, all kinds of, you know, Western music will be sounding like this. It also does sound like the do re mi scale, if you've heard that, which you have. It's just a different, slightly different system. So instead of 7 different notes or 7 different shapes, we have 4 to make up our scale. And, you know, that's kind of interesting, you know, that there's another whole class, you know, in that other system, every single note of the scale has its own shape and its own sound. And there's, you know, something to be said for that there's only one of each. But the beauty part of this is that some of these internal relationships, like this to this, fa, so is the same as fa, so, or fa, la is the same as fa, la. I hope I did that right. So once you get those little moves in your head, they work in multiple parts of the scale and you have fewer shapes to memorize. That's how I see it anyway. Maybe there's other people with things they want to say about that. I don't know. You can always unmute yourself. I feel like I'm talking all by myself. Okay. Oh, I didn't bring my pointer and I don't even have an assistant who can go outside and find me a stick. I guess I'll use the marker. I just found my Rudiments bag from camp. It has no less than 3 telescoping pointers, but I won't get them. There was also a muffin in there. You know how long it's been since I was at camp? There was a muffin in there. Okay, here we go. So we're gonna sing this. It's gonna sound familiar. We're gonna put those sounds that you know along with those shapes that you just learned. Okay. Fa, I really hope you're singing. Fa, sol, la, fa, sol, la, mi, fa. And back down. Fa, mi, la, sol, fa, la, sol, fa. Okay, then to prove a point, you know how I said that, oh, and Kate said that you don't have to memorize sharps and flats and key signatures and all that stuff. That is one of the most beautiful parts about our system, is that this can move around depending on the range of the song, and it's still gonna sound the same in relation to itself. So it's the same way that, you know, if you're out at wherever in a restaurant and you hear a group starting to sing happy birthday, sometimes they'll sing it in a humane place that starts pretty low. Happy birthday to you, so that when they get to the high note, it's not so high. But a lot of times people will sing it, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, and they can't do that note. And it's just like, oh man. My point in that is just to say that it's happy birthday no matter where it is. Even if it's too high to render well, it's still happy birthday. So think about that in terms of, you know, if you have a background in piano music or really any kind of music that uses instruments, you're kind of wedded to these different keys and where things are in relation to science and A440 and all this stuff that we don't have to learn, because this just works anywhere. Fa, sol, la, fa, sol, la, mi, fa, or fa, sol, la, fa, sol, la, mi, fa, or fa, sol, la, fa, sol. You know, it's just the same and we can move it around and you can practice it anywhere. Okay, now I'm going to ask for a brave volunteer to unmute themselves and sing some stuff. Come on. Any takers? There's how many of you? 86 of you. Oh yeah, who's saying that?
Lydia.
Awesome. Okay, Lydia. Oh, I want to see you. Where are you? You're somewhere in there.
Oh, I just got nervous.
Okay. Oh, good. Well, we can sweat together.
I can do this.
I'll give you a fa, and you know the rest. Fa.
fa, sol, la, fa, 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 sol, la, sol, la, fa, fa, sol, la, fa, sol, la, mi, fa, mi, la, sol, fa, la.
I think that's a sol, but I don't know.
What's that? I can't. Thank you. Sol, la, fa.
Yay! Very good job. Can we do one more? One more. I'll make it shorter. The problem is I can't go fast because there's the delay, but it kind of works. Did that sound like a singing school that was like somehow being dragged up a hill?
It was awesome. It was awesome.
That was awesome. Okay, who wants to do one more?
I'll do it.
Okay, I don't know who you are.
Cheryl.
Yes, hi Cheryl. Okay, ready? Let's do a different one. Let's do fa. So fa, sol, la, 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 mi, fa, la, na, 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 fa.
Fa, sol, la, sol, fa, sol, fa.
Nice. Very
I'd
good.
be the one doing an octave up. Fa, sol, la.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's start from this one then. Fa.
Fa, mi, la, mi, fa, sol, fa.
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you for being brave. Oh, is someone coming to visit me? Yeah, come on. Come on. Okay, Lucy wants to say hi. Come on, you can come in.
Hi, Lucy.
Hi.
So Lucy, poor Lucy. I told Lucy that I was teaching a singing school, and she was like, "Can I come?" And I was like, "Yeah, you can come visit." She was like, "I'll wear my mask or not." And I was like, "It's not an in-person singing. I'm sorry, but she misses you all too. You want to say hi?"
Hi, Lucy.
There's 85 people. Say hi. Give them a kiss. Or whatever you want to do. You want to inspect your teeth and look up your nose? All right. You just flirt with them for 20 seconds while I figure out what I'm doing next. You want to draw something? Oh. Yeah, here, have this. Thanks. Lucy also was making a nice song before, and from the other room, I heard her singing all sorts of things.
Hi.
There's Jesse. He wants to say hi too. You guys can unmute and say hi to people. This is maybe
That is not Lucy. Hey, Jesse.
Hi, Jesse.
Hi, Jesse.
Hello, Jesse.
Oh.
Hey, guys.
All right. Oh, you drew Saturn. She
drew Saturn.
Oh, good.
Wow.
Right. It does have a ring.
Okay.
Okay. Should we leave you to it?
Yes.
Okay.
Please. Thank you.
I think we did.
Oh, can I have water?
Yeah. Come on then.
Yeah, at the end, there's going to be something special for you.
Time at the end, so we have to wait until Mom tells us.
Okay, so. So those were all kind of random jump arounds, right? So we have our stepwise motion, fa, sol, la, so, fa, sol, la, fa, la, so, fa, sol, la, fa, so. That's something that you can do in a singing school. You can go up and come back down, and go up further and come back down. And so you practice over and over doing the relationships between any two that are next to each other. So then you have some jumps. So I was trying not to be too cruel, although I knew that both of the people who are practicing have done some of this before. But this is just to say that some of the jumps are harder than others, but our music doesn't have a lot of the hard ones. If you look through, there's a lot of, you know, this is the home note. This one's, you know, if they were like glowing, this one would be important. This one also, this one's got like a special role, but it's not too hard to jump to. I mean, from here to here is kind of hard. But really, if you lost two of them, it would be these. Then you'd have the pentatonic scale. That's a whole nother singing school. But the point is, these ones are harder to find. So it's not going to do a lot of fa, sol, la, sol, fa, fa, because that's really hard. Oh, crackers for me? Thank you. That'll help my dry throat. I got the water too. So every once in a while, there's a song that has one of those weird jumps and it's really hard to land it, and you'll notice, and you won't be the only one. But for the most part, there's a lot of fa, la, sol, la, fa, la, sol, la. Whoa. Fa, sol, la, fa. There's less of fa, mi. That's a fun, tricky thing to do in a singing school. But for all of you who are not advanced yet, just know that there's not, that the book wants you to be able to sing it. The jumps are not that wild. You know, I was trying to think of a song that maybe we would sing on the scale, and I thought of fa, la, so, fa, fa, la, so, 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 la, so, la, so, fa, la, so, so. That one's a little hard, but once you've sung it 3 times, it's not that bad. Wherever I am, da, 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 da. So it doesn't have any, like, you know, mean jumps. They're mostly obvious, and that's what you do in a singing school, is you practice the ones that are more easy but also more common. So now, what time is it? Oh my gosh, it's 8:41. So on that note, we are going to move to the rhythmics area for a moment. I don't know if I'm going to get to the minor scale. Don't at me. Minor music is great, but realistic. So I want to show you something that I made. Let me go back to this guy. Can you all see that? That's coronation again. So I like to look at it like this. I don't think we have something that looks explicitly like that in our rudiments. But I like to see all of this at once. So what we're looking at is durations. So this is just like these are a guide to relatively how they sound high and low. This is a guide to relatively how notes sound long and short. So again, there's not an exact measurement. That whole note is not exactly 1.5 seconds long, but however long it is in a song, it's going to be twice as long as the next one that you see. So on the top, you'll see those durations: whole, half, quarter, eighth, 16th, and there's some other stuff floating around. And then on the side, you'll see the different shape notes. So this is kind of a funny trick question. If I point to any of one of these notes and say, what kind of note is this? You could say it's a sol, but you could also say, oh, that's an eighth note, and both would be true. So you can call a note by what shape it is, and you can call a note by its duration. So the way to remember this business is the whole note, the big one, the one that takes up a fair amount of time in a song, is just the shape note itself. And you can see that, Fasola on me, just the shape note, that's whole note. When you halve it, and then within the same song, it would be half as long as that big one, you add a little stem. And I kind of just drew that fa over to the side to show you that, you know, you can flip it upside down and it still has the stem. The flag is going to look a little different. But anyway, that's just there to remind you that a fa is a fa, whether it's upside down or not. Which way is upside down? I don't know. That's actually, I'll throw that in there just as a little bit, that the reason I flipped this one this way is that when they do have stems, you want to put them on the staff, those 5 lines, in a way that the stem can live inside the staff. So that's really the reason. This one, if we were talking F, this one could probably go either way. But this one, if a fa is low, or if a note is low in the staff, then it's going to have a stem going up. And if it's high in the staff, it's going to have a stem going down, just so that it can fit in the staff. Maybe some of you didn't know that. Okay, so half note. Next is quarter note. Oh, and this is nice that it's sort of a progressive thing. So you go from the shape note, you add a stem, then you fill in the note head, then you add on a little flaggy thing when it's an 8th note, then it has 2 little flaggy things when it's a 16th note. Those are fairly rare and they go by very quickly. So if you get them wrong, no one will ever know. Then we see on the bottom rests. So these ones I think are a little harder to memorize, although I've heard all sorts of weird, good mnemonic devices and stuff for those too. A whole rest. So these are breaks in singing. They are going to take up the same amount of time as those notes, but they are silence. So the first one is a whole rest, and that looks kind of like a hole in the ground. It sits on one of the lines. Don't ask me which one. The middle one? Don't know. But it looks kind of like a little pothole. I think Drew Smith said that. And then the half note looks like a hat. Half sounds like hat. And then there's some other thing about like a whole gentleman tips his hat. Well, I don't know. I can't remember that one. And then a quarter note kind of looks like a 3, except it's a quarter. So that's not really helpful. And then the 8th note kind of looks like a 7. But maybe you will remember that because they're each one less than the other one. And then at least for the 16th note, you get the same kind of thing where there's 2 little flaggy doodles. So then one other thing to see is you can have 2 8th notes or 2 16th notes joined together. And this also is, I think, just to make, no, I guess it's not just to make the page look better because it has to do with the syllables. Yes, that's right. So it's called joined flags, and it'll do the same thing as some slurs and ties, and we'll quickly look at those too. We're gonna run through everything on the shirt at the end. Okay, I'm running real fast. Anyone have a question or a desire or a comment on anything that's going on? Because I heard someone, but maybe they just accidentally unmuted themselves. One never knows in a Zoom room. Okay, so I like to look at them all like that so you can see every single one. So now, if we go back for 1 second to this, the way that we organize our music, and this is similar to a lot of other written music, so you might have this concept down already, even if you're not a sacred harp singer yet, you will be. You can see if you pick any line, there's the 5 horizontal lines, but we also have these vertical lines, and they're called measure bars. So you can see that the music is split into these kind of chunks. So each of, that's not an appealing word. I should have picked a different one. Each of these sections is the same amount of time going by. So they have different things in them. Some of them have rests and notes. Some of them have only notes. Some of them have only rests. That's what makes a song. You know, it has different stuff going on, but the way that we can stay organized is splitting it up into these equal sections going by through time. So now we're gonna skip ahead to this little thing that I drew. So this was fun because there are things that just echo in my head from past singing schools. Gonna put another plug in for the YouTube video that's coming up after this. I can hear Tom Malone saying, there are 7 modes of common time. No, there are 7 modes of time, 3 in common, 2 in triple, 2 in compound. It's better if you get it right, but whatever, I tried. So, you know, if you have done other music, it looks like a time signature, but I'm here to tell you it's not the same, and you have to call it a mode of time or we will shame you. No, just kidding, no shame in this game, but call it treble and call it a mode of time. If you want to be in the cool kids club. So the reason that it's not just the same as the time signature, and whenever there's kids in my singing school class who have learned this probably over and over again in school, they say how many of what kind, and you know, that's almost it. But anyone want to unmute themselves and tell me why sacred harp is different? Because our modes of time tell us several different things. Someone call out a thing while I get some water.
Speed.
Speed. Okay. Relative tempo, that's correct. Give me another thing. What did I write down?
Accent.
Accent. That's
true. Our arm's gonna move.
How our arm's gonna move. That's another one that I didn't even write down, but that's so true.
Number of beats per measure.
Yes, and I guess the difference there is some people do this like what note gets the beat, and I feel like we don't, that's not exactly the language that we use, and I think it can really confuse people. So again, I have maybe Judy's voice, I don't know, someone's voice in my head saying, let's look at the first one, 2/2. The little speech that you can give to yourself is 2 half notes or their equivalent, fill a measure. So that's sort of a different way of saying it, kind of the same thing, but it talks about, rather than what gets the beat, it's in relation to the measure, which I like because it tells you what's going on in each of those chunks that's going by. So you might have 2 half notes, you might have 2 half rests, you might have a whole note, you might have 16/16 notes. As long as it fits in there, I mean, you probably won't because these are a general guide about how the music kind of feels. So it's not going to be anything that equals that, but it's certainly not going to be all just fa, 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 unless you're singing the alto part of, no, just kidding. Okay, so 2/2. 2 half notes or their equivalent, fill a measure. And then you can go on and do this, 4 quarter notes or their equivalent, fill a measure. 2 quarter notes. So that's one thing that it tells you. It tells you what the measure looks like when you have a song and it has that mode of time at the beginning. It's also going to tell you relative tempo, like whoever that was said, thank you. So, and this is definitely a Judy thing, Judy Caudle, that she doesn't ever use the word faster. Part of the reason I made this and didn't use this chalkboard that I already had was that had the word faster on it. And I could sort of feel someone being like, don't put the word faster. And I don't know whether that's just that you don't want to tempt fate and excite someone into doing something fast. Certainly we sing some songs fast and it's very fun. But the language that Judy used was 2/2 is slower than 4/4, which is slower than 2/4. So she didn't never get to say fast. So there's those 3 modes, and you can see there's a little diagram that I put on the top there where your hand goes down and up. One more plug for the cute videos. There's a great thing that Tom Malone says where he says your hand is going over fence posts. And I said that once in a singing school, and someone came up to me afterward and said, you've completely changed my brain. I never thought of it that way. And now I think of it all the time and it helps me stay where I need to be in my music. And so I changed one person's life with that. So think of your hand going out the window and your hand is hopping over fence posts or mailboxes or something that are like measure bars, and your hand has to go over and it goes down into the measure, and then it has to be up again to come over the top. And what we're talking about here is when you're the leader or when you're in the class, it's a good way to keep time, but especially you'll see the leader up in the middle of the square is going to help us all keep time and keep the tempo that she wants by directing. And those are the instructions for these modes of time. Your hand would go down in the beginning of every measure and then come up to go over that next measure bar. Okay, so next 2 modes are in triple time. This one's a little different with your hand. You can see I tried to write that it goes down and then down again and then up in every measure. 3/2, 3 half notes or their equivalent, fill a measure. 3/4, 3 quarter notes. I just feel like I have to say it, but anyway, you get the idea. Oh, I forgot to talk about accent in the last one. I'll go back for a second. So we have accent. Oh, we're already in dynamics. Look, we're in dynamics. It's happening. So I'm backing up. Sorry, everyone. Hope you don't have whiplash. In other kinds of music, dynamic markings, Jesse and I were looking this up before, forte, piano, crescendo, stuff like that. If you've heard stuff like that, they're sort of these bigger, grander moves of volume. What we have is this sort of perpetual, constant volume change that gives an emphasis to our music and helps us stay together. It helps keep the tempo that the leader wants. It helps infuse energy into the song to have this sort of da 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 da. It doesn't have to be swingy like that. I don't know, I got into something. But sometimes it has this sort of driving, you know, you almost can picture something rolling or picture someone cranking something, that it really just drives it along. So in 2/2 and 2/4, we only have usually 2 notes in one measure. So you can't really have a primary and a secondary accent. It's really just the primary. In 4/4, you do have like a nice punch. The first note of a measure in 4/4 is going to be a little louder, a little stronger, a little more forceful. And then the third note again is going to feel like that. Let's sing this with me just so you can get a little bit of what I'm talking about. We're going to practice our hand, and we're going to do 4 fas. Ready? Fa, 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 fa. It's kind of hard. I kind of got off the which one was being accented there. But here, let's do it again. And I will implore you, because this helps, to really overdo it with pulling back the second one and the fourth one. Fa, 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 fa. Sounds good, whoever you are. Fa, 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 fa. Anyway, it's great to practice that. Oftentimes I'm singing and I realize that I'm not really concentrating on it. Sometimes great accent just happens because the class is really together. Sometimes you have to kind of think about it more. But I mean, there's definitely always some amount of accent, and it really keeps us together. And when the accent is not great, things tend to drag more. The leader loses their tempo, etc. So think about it, whether you're new to singing or not. I will be completely honest that I find it the hardest in triple time to know if I'm doing that last accent, that secondary accent. But when in doubt, you know, accent the first beat of the measure. When you go into a new measure, you're going to be singing that note stronger, no matter what of the 7 modes of time you're in. So we'll move on to compound time. These measures have either 6 quarter notes or their equivalent, 6 eighth notes or their equivalent. These ones I always think of like piratey songs. Anyone else? Or sometimes pub type songs. So whereas in triple time you hear the bum, 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 da, kind of a slower 3. This is like quicker 3s kind of squished together to be a 6. And it gives it that. Was that Green Sleeves? What was I singing? So again, relative tempo. Maybe you saw that in the last one. 3/2 is slower than 3/4. 6/4 is slower than 6/8. Just so a little idea there. If you pick a song and it's 6/4, might range a little slower than if you picked a 6/8 song. It might. I'm going to use the word faster. And same thing, really the same as common time, where at the beginning of the measure you've got an accent, and in the middle where you're starting to come back up, you've got that accent, and that really keeps us all together. All right, since we're at the end, oh my gosh, how did that happen? Well, it's fun to try and fit it into it, even if it's not really possible. Can everyone stay for 5 more minutes? Oh, silence.
Yes.
Yay! Thank you for yes. I don't even know what I'm looking for here because, okay, when I stop sharing my screen, then I can see more of you. Okay, there you are. Hello, hello. Yeah. I'm going to put it on gallery so I can see all your beautiful faces again. Oh, this is much better. Hi, everybody. Okay, so for the last little bit, I think, okay, I'm just gonna play, I don't even have to play the whole thing, but I wanna play a little bit of this song that just, I always think it has really cool, even overemphasized accent. So I'm gonna make sure I do this right. Jillian taught me how to do it. Share screen, advanced, music or computer sound only. Let's see if that works. All right, tell me if you can hear this. It's not playing yet.
Yes. Good.
Thumbs up if you can hear it. Can you hear it? look along in 63 if you want. If you're a newcomer, you can just try and follow along on the tenor part, which is second from the bottom. If you've been singing a while, just try and hear this accent and sing along with it. All right, just one verse.
Bring forth the royal diadem and crown him Lord of all. Bring forth the royal diadem and crown him Lord of all.
Okay. All right. So I just like that. I don't know. The first time I heard it, it just felt so like in your face that I almost thought it was silly, but then I come back to it to try and get in that mode of like, well, they sound pretty good and they sound like they're together and it's just rolling along in this way. So accent is great. Accent is our dynamics. Accent is what makes our music work and makes it sound like our music and makes us all kind of be together in singing it. So just don't forget about it. Okay, I want to do one last thing, and I need 2 brave volunteers. And this is like a sight reading fun exercise. So if anyone feels particularly up for that, this is, I'll tell you what it is. It's, if I can find it. Oh no, I quit my preview. No, I shouldn't have done that. This is some exercises from a Rudiments that's not our book, but Jesse found them recently. He does a lot of work with different songbooks. And these were just so cute that I wanted to share them with someone. So here they are. Who wants to try and sing one? Be brave.
I can do it.
Okay. Did you already sing something? I can't tell who you are.
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay. How about someone who didn't already do one?
Oh, all right. Well.
So there. I mean, unless they don't volunteer in the next 5.5 seconds. Come on, be brave. Don't make me do it.
I'll do it.
Okay, good. Who are you?
It's Kate.
All right. Do it. Okay.
Okay.
So this exercise, can you see all this? Exercise 11.
I can see the words for you just want me to sing the shapes anyway, right?
Sing the shapes. But
okay.
But mind that first and second ending.
Yes. Okay. All right. Fasola. Oh, I'm already wrong.
No, that's good. No, that's great.
Fasola, fa, so, mi, so, fa, so, so, fa, so. So
I kept doing that too, but the entrance is in a weird part. So after you do fa, la, so, la, then you skip to the second entrance. So do the second round again.
Ah, okay. Okay. Fa, la, so, fa, so. Fa, la, so, fa.
All right.
Like dog's dinner, but not too bad.
No, you got a lot of that. There's some tricky ones. That was sort of my point, is that there's really tricky ones. So how about, okay, I don't know if I've sung it correctly yet, but I'm gonna try and sing the words and everyone can sing along with me at home if you want to. Minimize this. Okay. I like that key. So fa, so, la, fa, so. I mean, it's kind of rangy too. Okay, let's see. And I'm gonna beat time on this one and try and throw in some accent. I think I should do the notes though. I said I was gonna do the words. I'm gonna do the notes fast. Fa, la, so, fa, so, mi, so, fa, la, so, fa, la, so, la, fa, so, fa. That end part is really hard, but that's why I love it. O'er the hill and down the glade, in the cool and quiet shade. That's not intuitive. Of the mountains rugged. No, rugged steep, onward still, our way we keep. Wow, that's hard. Okay. Whew. Thank you, Kate. That was very brave. This one, okay, who wants a challenge? This one is funny because it has rests. It's about rest practice. So it's easy to mess up, but it's fun. Someone
I'll do it.
Here, yes. Who is it?
Jonathan.
Yes. Okay, go. Oh, and it looks like it's in minor, but it's in major. Everyone might have noticed that. It's weird that it starts on the la.
La, 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 fa, sol. Sol, sol, la, la, mi, fa, fa, mi, la, la, sol, sol. Fa, fa, la, fa, sol, la, fa. Sol, sol, la, mi, fa, mi, la, sol, fa, la, sol.
Yes. All right, do it on the words and everyone sing along at home. And I'm not going to mute myself because then I'm afraid I'm going to mess it up.
Oh boy.
Okay, you do it.
Work with zest. First we'll labor, then we'll rest. Yes, after labor cometh rest. Sweet rest, see, rest abound. Signs of silence, not of sound. Yes, here they're found. Signs of silence, not of sound.
Very nice. Thank you. All right, I just wanted to do something kind of funky and do some hard exercises there. So if you can stay, I'm happy to take any questions, comments, and thank you so much for being here. As I know that most of you know most of this stuff, but I hope maybe you learned something new, or maybe you thought about teaching in a different way, or maybe it was just fun to see other people's faces. And anyway, whatever it is, I thank you so much for being here. And anyone who wants to say anything now, I guess I could call on you so we don't get to.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.